ओके, इंट्रोडक्शन टू पब्लिक इकोनॉमिक्स। देखो, दो तरह की इकोनॉमीज होती हैं। दो तरह की इकोनॉमीज होती हैं। एक होती है मार्केट बेस्ड कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमी। एक होती है मार्केट बेस्ड कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमी और दूसरी होती है कमांड इकोनॉमी। दोनों में क्या डिफरेंस है? व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द टू? जो मार्केट बेस्ड इकोनॉमी है उसमें जो डिसीजंस लिए जाएंगे वो इकोनॉमिक यूनिट्स लेंगे। हाउस होल्ड्स हैं, फर्म्स हैं, और गवर्नमेंट का बहुत कम रोल है, राइट? सो गवर्नमेंट का रोल कम है। कमांड इकोनॉमी में जो गवर्नमेंट के पॉलिसी प्लानर्स हैं वो डिसीजंस लेंगे। यहां तक बात सही? सो देयर आर टू काइंड्स ऑफ इकोनॉमीज, मार्केट बेस्ड कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमी एंड कमांड इकोनॉमी। तो जो मार्केट बेस्ड कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमी है उसके अंदर जो डिसीजंस लेंगे वो डिसीजंस कंज्यूमर्स लेंगे, फर्म्स लेंगे, कहीं कहीं गवर्नमेंट लेगी, बट जनरली गवर्नमेंट का रोल कम है, राइट? कमांड इकोनॉमी में गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी प्लानर्स जो हैं वो डिसाइड करेंगे, राइट? जो हमको यहां पे ये देखना है कि what are the welfare effects of the economic policies of the competitive market। हम बेसिकली इस लेक्चर के अंदर इसी इकोनॉमी के बारे में बात करेंगे, मार्केट बेस्ड कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमी। दिस इज व्हाट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इन दिस पर्टिकुलर लेक्चर। हो सकता है, ये पॉसिबल है कि कुछ डिस्टॉर्शंस आ जाए, कुछ डिस्टॉर्शंस आ जाएं कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमी के आउटकम में। लेकिन एक और चीज है, अगर आप कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमी कहते हैं तो उसके साथ साथ आप कुछ बातें कह रहे हैं, जैसे यू आर सेइंग दैट इन दिस इकोनॉमी देयर आर लार्ज नंबर of buyers and sellers, right? And they have there is no asymmetric information. There is no asymmetric information, and there are no barriers or transaction costs. So there are large number of buyers and sellers in the economy. हम देखेंगे कि if this assumption is not valid, for example, if there is only a monopoly in the market, सिर्फ एक सेलर आ गया, तो जो वेलफेयर आउटकम्स की बात हम कर रहे हैं वो आउटकम्स रीच नहीं हो पाएंगे, वो रिजल्ट्स नहीं आ पाएंगे। हमने जिन assumptions के अंदर ये बात करी, बिकॉज ये तो assumptions है ना मार्केट बेस्ड कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमी की, अगर इनमें से एक भी assumption जाएगी तो उसका जो इफेक्ट है आउटकम पे आएगा वो आउटकम्स रीच नहीं हो पाएंगे। हम देखेंगे उस समय गवर्नमेंट क्या करती है। अगर एसिमेट्रिक इंफॉर्मेशन हो, जनरली ऐसा हो सकता है बेटा कि जो सेलर्स हैं उनके पास ज्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन होती है एज कंपेयर टू बायर्स। सेलर्स दे हैव मोर इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ देयर ओन प्रोडक्ट एज कंपेयर टू बायर्स। दैट इज कंप्लीटली राइट। So in that case, how will you achieve the outcome? What can government do? How will government intervene in the market, right? So up until now in micro, we have just assumed there is no asymmetric information, there are large number of buyers and sellers and so on and so forth. But here, you have to have the role for the government, right? So now there can be distortions in the market. There can be distortions in the market. And what can these distortions be? There can be distortions in the market also. डिस्टॉर्शंस हो सकती हैं। किस में डिस्टॉर्शंस होंगी? जो डिसीजंस इकोनॉमिक यूनिट्स ले रहे हैं अगर उनमें डिस्टॉर्शंस हैं तो गवर्नमेंट का इंटरवेंशन रिक्वायर्ड है, राइट? गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन इज रिक्वायर्ड। उन केसेस के अंदर गवर्नमेंट का इंटरवेंशन रिक्वायर्ड है। किस तरह से डिस्टॉर्शंस हो सकती हैं? हो सकती हैं भाई, अभी हमने कहा हो सकता है मोनोपोली हो, या मोनोप्सनी हो, तो जो कंपेटिटिव आउटकम्स आएंगे वो नहीं आ सकते, राइट? You may not have the competitive outcomes. Sometimes the goods are not private goods but public goods. Public goods. सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम पब्लिक गुड्स के साथ ये है that the people they will not reveal their preferences truthfully, right? So if you start revealing your preferences truthfully, we can infer about that what is this good, what is the value of this good to you, and we can charge that much price from you. But in case of public good, it becomes difficult. Now, what are those public goods? That's what we are going to do. Also, they can be taxes, they can be subsidies. So in the presence of these also, it is possible that economic units, they are not facing the competitive price. Then what happens, right? So these are examples of some distortions which might happen. So in all of these cases, government intervention is definitely required. And when you say government intervention, what is meant by the government intervention? Why do you need a government intervention? Because this government intervention can improve the economic outcome. अगर मुझे asymmetric information है मेरे केस के अंदर, जैसे अगर मैं इंश्योरेंस लेने जा रहा हूं तो जनरली इंश्योरेंस कंपनी के पास ज्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन एज कंपेयर टू व्हाट आई हैव एज अ बायर, लेकिन अगर उधर कोई रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी है जो कि हर तरीके के इंश्योरेंस के ऊपर नजर रख रही है और हर तरीके के इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी जो भी मुझे बेची जा रही है उसके बारे में मुझे बता रही है, इंडिपेंडेंट रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी, तो गवर्नमेंट इस तरीके से एसिमेट्रिक इंफॉर्मेशन को हटा सकती है. That is the need of the government. You understand the example which I'm trying to say? That is, if there is asymmetric information, for example, I'm going to buy an insurance policy, then the government might have, the insurance seller will have more information than what I have. And in that case, government can set up an independent regulatory authority which can set up some rules that these are the informations which you will have to provide, and it will oversee the entire insurance market, right? So government intervention can help reduce that asymmetric information. So that is the reason government intervention is required. Why? Because the government intervention, it tries to improve the outcome of independent decision makers, right? Now, when you say distortions, you also have to understand one thing. If there are distortions, then in the presence of these distortions, individuals, they cannot attain their optimum. Individuals, they cannot attain their optimum. So up until now, what is it that you have said? That people are individualistic. They want to maximize their utility subject to their constraints, right? So if there are distortions which are present, then individuals cannot maximize their utility, right? They will not be reaching out their optimum. So if individuals cannot reach their optimum, then how can you assume that society will reach their optimum? Because the social welfare function is the function of all of these individual functions. If these individual functions, they're not reaching their optimum, social welfare function also cannot be maximized. So social welfare function can't be maximized in this case, right? Can't be maximized in this case. Now you have to understand, what do you mean by a social welfare function, or what is the social welfare function? So let us define the social welfare function as, let's say, W, which is the function of the utilities of different individuals. Utilities of different individuals. So there are n individuals in the economy. And the social welfare function is the function of these n individual utilities. And within that, this individual utility will be the function of n different goods which this individual can consume. You with me? So social welfare function is the function of n different individuals' utilities, and the nth individual utility is dependent upon, or in our example, the individual A's utility is dependent upon n different goods which he is consuming, right? So this utility function, which we have just written, it is a simple function, your standard neoclassical properties, nothing much. But the idea which you have to understand is, in this particular problem, is that these are different individuals, your UA, UB, and so on to UN, they are different individuals. So within this social welfare function, how should weights be decided? How should weights be decided? अब तुम ये कैसे कहो, ठीक है, हमारे इंडिविजुअल यूटिलिटी फंक्शंस हैं, अब हो सकता है कि मैं पुअर हूं, तुम रिच हो. So if you are richer, should you be given more weight than me? And if your utility increases and my utility doesn't increase much, then also social welfare should increase. Should that be the criteria? So how will you decide on the weights, right? So the question is that how should these weights be decided? I mean, what weights you should be giving to the idea, to the different individuals' utility. So there are many criteria. The most important criteria which you will have to take care of, which has to be imposed on the social welfare function, right, is the Pareto criteria. This Pareto criteria should be imposed on the social welfare function. Now, what do you mean by Pareto criteria? अगर एक इंडिविजुअल की यूटिलिटी इंक्रीज होती हो विदाउट डिक्रीजिंग एनी अदर इंडिविजुअल, तो ये सेटिस्फाई करता है परेटो क्राइटेरिया को. इस तरह का रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, आप एक पॉइंट से दूसरे पॉइंट पे मूव कर रहे हैं और उस पॉइंट पे मूव करते हुए एक इंडिविजुअल की यूटिलिटी बढ़ रही है और सारे इंडिविजुअल्स की यूटिलिटी कांस्टेंट है, दैट्स फाइन, राइट? So in that case the welfare increases, right? So this would mean what? For all I, B, C and tool N, welfare increases if one individual is better off and nobody else is worse off. ठीक है. So अगर हमारे को इसी चीज को now how can I move this? Oh wow, as I'm moving, even these words are moving at the same time. So should I wait? I don't know how to go about this. Supposedly, if there are just two individuals in the society and I want to plot their welfare, something like this, and so you have individual B's utility here and individual A's utility here. So if I want somehow that this utility remains constant for a given social welfare, right? For a given social welfare, I want to find out different utilities, the combinations of different utilities, which is going to give me a given social welfare. Then I will be getting the curve like this, right? I will be getting the curve like this, and this is the social indifference curve. This guy is the social indifference curve. Fair enough. Okay. I can also draw one more curve. And naturally, this curve is giving me a higher utility. SIC2 is giving me a higher utility than SIC1. Sorry, SIC1. Okay. So let us say I'm here. Let us say this point is A, and if we move, let's say, to this point B, then what happens? Here at this moment, individual A's utility remains constant, but individual B's utility increases. Is that right? So what you can say that this point B, this distribution of income which is generating these utilities, is Pareto superior to point A, right? So because, and how do you say that point B is Pareto superior to point A? Because individual B is better off without decreasing individual A's utility. So this point B is Pareto superior. B is Pareto superior to point A, right? Now supposedly if you move to point, let's say C, you move like this. So as compared to SIC1, C is definitely better off because it gives higher utility to higher utility to the society, definitely, right? But otherwise B and C, they are lying on the same utility, right? Otherwise B and C is lying on the same utility, so society treats C and B equally. That is, they are indifferent between C and B. Acha, abhi we have just talked about the social welfare function. So one kind of social welfare function is your Bergson social welfare function, or I think Benthamite social welfare function, not Bergson, Benthamite. Benthamite social welfare function. So that is the sum of all individuals' utility. That is the sum of all individuals' utility. That is what the Benthamite social welfare function is. So in the two-dimensional diagram, so if you just take W equals to UA plus UB, Hmm? That is, if you just take UA plus UB together, so you have UB here, you have UA here, and if you just plot this, let's say for the utility 4, so different combinations of UA and UB, which is going to give you utility 4. So once you do that, you will be getting this downward sloping straight line, something like this. So you will be getting this kind of the case. Okay. Now, what is the idea of this social welfare function? The idea is my utility should remain, my total welfare should remain constant. That is the idea. So it means what? 3 plus 1, that is equal to 4. So individual, let us say individual A is better off, is richer, so he has the higher utility. 3 plus 1 is equal to 4. And even if the poorer individual gives whatever utility he has to this individual, then also it remains 4. So it doesn't matter. In this kind of the Benthamite social welfare function, it doesn't matter if the poorer individual gives his wealth to the richer individual, right? The welfare is remaining same, that is fine, right? So the gain and loss of the individuals are independent. Gain and losses of the individuals are independent of their wealth positions, right? That is one thing. Then you have the Rawlesian social welfare function. That's another kind of function. Then you have the Rawlesian social welfare function. So here the utility depends upon the utility of the poorest individual. The utility depends upon the utility of the poorest individual. So what happens if the government puts out some policies and the utility of the richer individuals are increasing, but the utility of the poorest individual is not increasing? It means that the welfare of the society will not increase. That is the idea. You with me? So if the better off individuals, they are gaining because of some policy change, but the most poor individual, his utility is not increasing, then the welfare of the society is not increasing. You with me? Right? So if the worst off individual is, please write, if the worst off individual is left untouched, then welfare of the society will not increase, right? And what is the kind of the social welfare function which you will have here? So you have UB here, you have UA here, so this is the kind of the social welfare function which you will have. So W equals to min of UA UB. So if I just want to plot this for two individuals, min of UAUB, so different points of UAUB, let's say min of 4, 5 is 4, min of 5, 4 is 4, min of 4, 4 is 4. So you get this kind of the utility function. Sorry, this kind of the social welfare function. Right. Now this takes us to the idea of Pareto optimality. Right. This takes us to the idea of Pareto optimality. Right. Pareto optimality. Well, the idea is that you cannot make one individual better off without making the other individual worse off. We have talked about this in the micro course a lot. I'm just putting out the idea that is the most efficient solution in any economy is provided by the Pareto optimal solution, right? So the most efficient solution is the Pareto optimal solution, where you cannot make one individual better off without making the other individual worse off. Now this leads us to the first theorem of welfare economics, right? This leads us to the first theorem of welfare economics. And what is this first welfare theorem saying? What is this first welfare theorem saying? That is any competitive equilibria is Pareto optimal, right? So in a simple language, the first welfare theorem, it can be written as that is in a competitive market economy which allows for free trading among individuals, any mutually beneficial trading will result in efficient distribution of resources, right? That is supposedly, I mean, what you are trying to say is that the market itself is guiding individual to the best possible solution, right? Also, there is no government intervention here, right? Because if there is government intervention, individuals, they cannot self pursue the goal of their self-interest, right? And there are no external effects. So you can also show this in an Edgeworth box. So how do you do that? Right. So there are two individuals, and the individual one has, or individual A has the origin here, individual B has the origin here. So this axis is topsy-turvy down on this particular axis. उल्टा कर दिया इस axis को. And supposedly, if I'm starting from, let us say, these are our endowments, right? So I'm going fast in this because we've already done this in the micro course. So I'm assuming from the micro course you have an idea of the Edgeworth box. This is, let's say, UA, and this is, let's say, UB. So I would want to move to this direction. I would want to move to this direction, and you would want to move in this direction. Well, given your utility, what is the maximum utility I can achieve? Your utility is not decreasing, but at least my utility is increasing in UA dash. So I am individual A, you are individual B. When we move from this particular point to this point, your utility is same because you are at the same indifference curve, but my utility increases, right? So now if I fix my utility function and I ask what is the highest utility you can have, so your utility is what, this, huh? And they were moving in this direction, so you are also achieving your utility highest here. So this is the Pareto optimal point. This guy is the Pareto optimal point, right? Guys, I'm again telling you, I've done this very quickly here. This was done in detail in the micro course already, so I'm not going to repeat the same stuff here. So this was already done in detail in the micro course. So the idea only is this, that you are now just touching the base of micro and you're moving in the public economics. So you're just starting from wherever that thread has ended, right? So these are the set of the Pareto efficient points. All of these are the set of the Pareto efficient points, right? So these are the Pareto efficient points, these points, right? So all tangency points of the indifference curves, all of these points, all the tangency points, they are satisfying the Pareto criteria. They are satisfying the Pareto criteria. And if you look at this, these Pareto optimal points, they are satisfying this criteria. That is, MRS of individual 1 is equal to MRS of individual 2, or MRS A is equal to MRS B. And all of these points, the set of all of these points is called the contract curve. Right. In the micro course, you've also looked at it numerically using different examples, but I'm just putting the main points itself. So what is happening here is that the market itself is driving the individual towards the best option. That is, you're saying that you can move from this point to this point, at least your utility will not increase and this somebody else's utility is going to increase. So there is no need for intervention, right? So there is no need for intervention, right? But you also have to understand one thing, that is, all of these points, they cannot be termed as, you can say, which of these optimal points is the best. So all of these points can't be best. You get the point. सारे के सारे points इस contract curve पे अच्छे नहीं हो सकते, सबसे बढ़िया नहीं हो सकते. Because you also have to now ask yourself the equity question. You're putting some more additional value judgments here. Equity question. अभी तक कोई गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन नहीं है, लेकिन अगर तुम्हारे को इक्विटी क्वेश्चन को देखना है कि इनमें से ऐसा भी तो हो, फेयर तो हो, ये थोड़ी, बिकॉज ये वाला पॉइंट भी सबसे बढ़िया है, मतलब परेटो ऑप्टिमल है ये वाला पॉइंट भी इसमें, लेकिन दूसरे बी इंडिविजुअल को सब कुछ मिल रहा है और ए को कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है. सो क्या ये इक्विटेबल है, क्या ये फेयर है, राइट? हालांकि दोनों चीजों में थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस है, बट आई एम जस्ट यूजिंग देम इंटरचेंजेबली. So what I'm saying is that although market is driving them towards these Pareto efficient points without any government intervention, but if you want to ask yourself some value judgments, if you want to ask yourself some equity questions, then of course government intervention might be required, right? And this takes us to the second welfare theorem. This takes us to the second welfare theorem, right? So what is the second welfare theorem? Second welfare theorem says that in a competitive market economy, please write, in a competitive market economy, for any initial distribution of goods among the individuals, any point on UPF is a point of equilibrium. Any point on UPF is the point of equilibrium, right? अब क्वेश्चन ये उठता है, जरा इसको समझाने से पहले क्वेश्चन ये उठता है कि यूपीएफ क्या चीज़ है. ये वाला पॉइंट भी हम ऑलरेडी माइक्रो के कोर्स में देख चुके हैं. बट व्हाट इज द यूटिलिटी पॉसिबिलिटी फ्रंटियर? मैं अभी आता हूं सेकेंड वेलफेयर थ्योरम पे. एक बार जरा मैं ये बता दूं, यूटिलिटी पॉसिबिलिटी फ्रंटियर, व्हाट इज मेंट बाय दिस? ये सारे के सारे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर्व्स हैं, ये सारे के सारे पॉइंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर्व पे हैं, राइट? डिफरेंट कॉम्बिनेशंस हैं यूए और यूबी की, जो कि ये बिकॉज ये वाला पॉइंट इंडिविजुअल ए को यूए डैश दे रहा है और इंडिविजुअल बी को यूबी दे रहा है, ये वाला पॉइंट, लेट्स से पॉइंट ए. सो ऐसे ही हर पॉइंट कोई ना कोई यूटिलिटी दे रहा है सारे के सारे इंडिविजुअल्स को. उन सारी यूटिलिटीज का लोकस ही तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लोकस है, और यही यूटिलिटी पॉसिबिलिटी फ्रंटियर है. दिस इज व्हाट इज the utility possibility frontier. So if you put all of these points, so if UA and UB here, and you put all of these points, right? So UPF, this is the locus of all possible optimal combinations of UA and UB lying on the contract curve. सो डेफिनेटली बिकॉज एक की यूटिलिटी बढ़ेगी तो वो तभी बढ़ेगी जब दूसरे की यूटिलिटी घटेगी. देयर इज नो अदर वे, राइट? परेटो ऑप्टिमल में तो ये तो परेटो इंफीरियर पॉइंट था, तो यहां से परेटो ऑप्टिमल में गए हो तो एक की यूटिलिटी कांस्टेंट है, दूसरे की बढ़ी. बट अगर एक पॉइंट से दूसरे पे जाओगे, इस पॉइंट से इस पॉइंट पे जाओगे, तो इंडिविजुअल ए की यूटिलिटी तो बढ़ेगी लेकिन इंडिविजुअल बी की यूटिलिटी घटेगी. इंडिविजुअल ए हायर यूटिलिटी फंक्शन पे है और इंडिविजुअल बी लोअर इंडिफरेंस कर्व पे है, राइट? सो डेफिनेटली since the total endowment of the goods is given, an increase in one individual's utility can only come at the expense of the another individual's utility, right? So और जनरली ये फंक्शन कॉनकेव भी है. आई मीन दिस यूटिलिटी पॉसिबिलिटी फ्रंटियर, अगर आप थोड़ी सी यूटिलिटी एक इंडिविजुअल से लेते हैं तो आपको दूसरे को कंपनसेट करना पड़ेगा बाय गिविंग एन इंक्रीजिंग अमाउंट ऑफ यूटिलिटी टू द अदर इंडिविजुअल, राइट? दैट इज व्हाट इज मेंट बाय यूपीएफ विच इज कॉनकेव. ठीक है. अच्छा, एक पॉइंट लेते हैं यहां पे. मान लीजिए पॉइंट ए, ये यूपीएफ पर तो है नहीं, ये यूपीएफ से अंदर में है। हम अगर इस तरह के पॉइंट पे जाते हैं, राइट, मैं अगर यहां से यहां पे गया तो इसका मतलब है इंडिविजुअल बी की यूटिलिटी कांस्टेंट है, लेकिन इंडिविजुअल ए की यूटिलिटी बढ़ गई है अगर हम ए से बी की ओर जाते हैं। सो ये जितनी भी परेटो इंप्रूवमेंट्स हैं, ये परेटो इंप्रूवमेंट है ना, ए से बी की ओर जाना, सो ये सेटिस्फाई करती हैं परेटो क्राइटेरिया को। सो दीज परेटो इंप्रूवमेंट्स, प्लीज राइट, all Pareto improvements satisfy Pareto criteria, right? Okay, बट मान लेते हैं अगर हमारे को इस पॉइंट से इस पॉइंट की ओर मूव करना है, लेट अस से दिस पॉइंट इज सी, सो वी वांट टू मूव फ्रॉम दिस पॉइंट टू दिस पॉइंट सी। यहां पे अगर हम देखें बी के साथ क्या प्रॉब्लम है, एट बी इंडिविजुअल ए की यूटिलिटी बहुत है और इंडिविजुअल बी की यूटिलिटी कम है। इंडिविजुअल ए की यूटिलिटी बहुत है और इंडिविजुअल बी की यूटिलिटी कम है। तो हम ऐसा भी तो कर सकते हैं कि हम इंडिविजुअल ए को थोड़ा सा टैक्स कर दें, वी कैन टैक्स इंडिविजुअल ए, राइट, एंड we can redistribute these taxes in form of transfers, let's say to individual B, right, individual B को redistribute कर दें। so society क्या करेगी, वो पॉइंट B से C की ओर मूव कर जाएगी। सोसाइटी क्या करेगी, वो पॉइंट B से C की ओर मूव कर जाएगी, राइट। so what do you mean by this? तो हम यही तो कह रहे हैं कि सारे के सारे पॉइंट जैसे बी सी, ये सारे के सारे पॉइंट्स परेटो ऑप्टिमल हैं, बट ये सारे पॉइंट्स डिजायरेबल नहीं है। तो हो सकता है सी ज्यादा डिजायरेबल है बी से, इट इज गिविंग यू एन इक्विटेबल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन। सो सेकेंड वेलफेयर थ्योरम यही चीज सजेस्ट कर रही है, दैट इज यू कैन स्टार्ट फ्रॉम एनी इनिशियल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ इनकम and government can redistribute the resources in a way so that you can achieve a desired Pareto optimal situation based on whatever value judgment the society is having. You with me? So government ऐसा कर सकती है कि redistribution कर सकती है so that in a way there is a Pareto optimal situation which is better off for everyone. Now for everyone is a very difficult situation to achieve. जहां तक ये बात है कि रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सबकी यूटिलिटी को इंक्रीज कर रहा है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, बट ऐसा हो सकता है कि रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की कोई पॉलिसी हो जो किसी एक की यूटिलिटी को इंक्रीज करे और दूसरी की थोड़ी को डिक्रीज करे। सो कोई गेनर हो सकता है और कोई लूजर हो सकता है। They can be a gainer or they can be a loser. So this brings us to the case of the compensation principles. तो जहां तक यह है कि रिडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सबकी यूटिलिटी को इंक्रीज कर रहा है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं। लेकिन अगर एक जना गेन कर रहा है और दूसरा जना लूज कर रहा है तो प्रॉब्लम है, then there is a problem, right? Because losers would not want to lose. So there are different compensation principles which were designed. One was the Kaldor criteria. Other was the Hicks criteria. and the other was the Skidmore criteria. One was the Kaldor criteria, other was the Hicks criteria, and the other was the Skidmore criteria. कैल्डर क्या कहते हैं? कैल्डर कहते हैं, एक तो पहले एक कुछ पॉइंट्स लिख लेते हैं। जो कैल्डर का क्राइटेरिया है वो गेनर्स के पर्सपेक्टिव से है, ठीक है, और जो हिक्स का क्राइटेरिया है वो लूजर्स के पर्सपेक्टिव से है। गेनर्स जो इकोनॉमिक चेंज से, जो इकोनॉमिक चेंज हुआ है, जो इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी का चेंज हुआ है, उस पॉलिसी से जो गेन कर रहे हैं वो गेनर्स हैं। इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी का जो चेंज हुआ है, जो उस पॉलिसी से जो लूज कर रहे हैं वो लूजर्स हैं, ठीक है। तो कैल्डर कहते हैं अपने क्राइटेरिया में, वो ये कहते हैं डेफिनेटली कोई लोग गेन करेंगे और कोई लोग लूज करेंगे। तो अगर तो जो गेनर्स हैं, राइट, वो लूजर्स को कॉम्पनसेट कर दें और उस कॉम्पनसेशन के बाद भी बेटर ऑफ रहें, तो जो आप कह सकते हो कि जो चेंज है, इकोनॉमिक चेंज है, वो वेलफेयर इंक्रीजिंग है। इस बात को लिखेंगे, इस बात को लिखेंगे, इफ एन इकोनॉमिक चेंज makes some people gain and others lose, right, and gainers are able to compensate the losers and yet they are better off. And yet they are better off. Then the change increases the social welfare. Then the change increases the social welfare. ये कह रहा है कैल्डर। कैल्डर ये कह रहे हैं, वो ये कह रहे हैं कि अगर गेनर्स जो हैं वो लूजर्स को कंपनसेट कर दें और तब भी गेनर ही रहें, राइट, तब भी वो लूज ना करें, तो इसका ये अर्थ है कि सोशल वेलफेयर इंक्रीज हुआ है। जो हिक्स का क्राइटेरिया है, उन्होंने इस पूरी की पूरी बात को लूजर्स के एंगल से देखा है। उन्होंने कहा सो डेफिनेटली अगर इकोनॉमिक चेंज होगा तो कुछ गेनर्स होंगे और कुछ लूजर्स होंगे, राइट, राइट, इफ लूज एंड लूजर्स are not able to compensate the gainers, to prevent them from voting for the change. Voting for the change then the changes welfare increases, right, voting from the change, then the change is socially desirable. So, see, I'm not making any diagrams, etc. here because otherwise this recording will become very, very huge. I've already discussed all this in the micro part. So I'm just putting up the ideas here. We have to very quickly go towards the public economics part, the core public economics part. Well, and the Skidovsky criteria says what? It actually combines both of them. It says that yes, if the gainers could compensate the losers to make the change, and the losers are not able to compensate the gainers to prevent them from the voting change, then this means that social welfare has happened, or there is an increase in social welfare, and it is called the Skidovsky's double criteria. So let me just write that. If the gainers could compensate the losers to make the change, while losers cannot profitably bribe the gainers in not making the change. Right. There's too much of writing in this. So since this combines both Calder and Hicks, this is called Skidovsky's double criteria. Right. Okay. Now the main point is that how do you apply these welfare criteria in public economics? So there are conditions. I mean, I think some of these conditions we have also mentioned out here. Here. So the first condition is monopoly. Well, when you are doing the welfare maximization, you have assumed the competitive model, right? You've assumed the competitive model. What is the criteria of the competitive model? There are large number of buyers and sellers. In monopoly, there is how many seller? One, right? So problem is, let's say there are two kinds of commodity. There is the one commodity and there is the second commodity. This commodity is produced by a monopolist and this commodity is produced in a competitive market. Well, if this commodity is produced in a competitive market, then price is equal to marginal cost is what they're going to charge, and at this point the competitive producers are going to produce, while the monopolist will be charging price greater than marginal cost. Naturally, the quantity is going to fall as compared to in the competitive quantity. Well, consumers are now going to face the competitive prices. Definitely, in the monopolist case, the consumers are now going to face the competitive prices. So if they are not going to face the competitive prices, then that welfare maximization criteria, which has given rise to contract curve, consumers will not be able to move along the contract curve, right? But remain outside it. That is the idea. यही तो कह रहे हो आप कि क्योंकि मोनोपोली के केस में कंज्यूमर्स को मार्जिनल कॉस्ट से ज़्यादा प्राइस देना पड़ेगा, वो कंपेटिटिव कंडीशंस में अब नहीं है, वो कंपेटिटिव प्राइसेस को फेस नहीं करेंगे, और ये जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर्व आपने बनाया था ये कंपेटिटिव मार्केट को और कंपेटिटिव प्राइसेस को अज्यूम करके बनाया था. तो इसका ये अर्थ है कि मोनोपोली के केस में आप कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर्व तक ना पहुंच पाए. You will not be able to move along the contract curve as a consumer. Now there comes the government. Now comes the government. The government can oversee this. Government can oversee this. So there are few cases where government can come. First, they can be the case of a natural monopoly. Just think about it. If railway actually start behaving like any private producer, it can charge whatever price it wants to charge, right? And government knows this. Government knows this, that railway can actually act like this. So government takes over railways. So they are generally controlled by the government. They are generally controlled by the government. So you're understanding this. Government किस तरह से हेल्प कर रही है प्राइसेस को कम करने के लिए? इस तरीके से इस नेचुरल मोनोपोली को गवर्नमेंट ने ही ओन कर लिया। हो सकता है कोई ऐसी मोनोपोलीज आ जाएं जो कि नई चीजें बनाएं और उनके लिए वो पेटेंट्स ले लें। सो बट देन बहुत सारी रेगुलेशंस के साथ आते हैं पेटेंट्स। आई मीन यू कैन नॉट हैव पेटेंट फॉर द इनफाइनाइट टाइम। सो देयर आर प्राइस रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज देयर। यूर अंडरस्टैंडिंग? ये सारी की सारी आउटसाइड मार्केट है ना, आउटसाइड मार्केट का मैकेनिज्म है। दैट इज natural monopolies being regulated by government. There are price regulatory bodies who are deciding on patents or who are governing these patents, who are keeping these prices of these patents intact, right? मान लीजिए कल HIV की ड्रग आ जाए या कोरोना वायरस की ड्रग आ जाए और किसी मोनोपोली ने बनाई है, वो पता नहीं कुछ भी प्राइस रख दे, बट द गवर्नमेंट इज गोइंग टू बी देयर। हालांकि वो पेटेंट देती है, देयर इज अ पेटेंट लॉ ऑल्सो, बट ऐसा नहीं है कि वो इनफाइनाइट अमाउंट के लिए पेटेंट दे देगी। एंड देयर ऑल्सो यू हैव टू कीप द प्राइस इन सच अ वे कि मैक्सिमम लोग, अगर ऐसी कोई चीज है जिससे बहुत लोगों को फायदा होने वाला है, देन गवर्नमेंट विल टेक केयर ऑफ दैट, राइट? गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन यहाँ पे जरूरी है। फिर ऐसा हो सकता है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल दे कैन ऑल्सो बी जैसे ओपेक कार्टेल है, राइट? देयर इज समथिंग लाइक एन ओपेक कार्टेल। अब ऑयल तो उनसे ही खरीदेंगे। अगर अब ऑयल उनसे ही खरीदेंगे तो भैया ये कैसे करेंगे आप? मतलब किस तरीके से गवर्नमेंट कंज्यूमर्स की हेल्प कर सकती है? गवर्नमेंट को फिर से पिक्चर पे आना पड़ेगा एंड गवर्नमेंट मे वांट टू सब्सिडाइज दिस, राइट? गवर्नमेंट वी वांट टू सब्सिडाइज कंज्यूमर्स। अब ये होता है नहीं होता है तो बात की बात है, but at least your books write this way, right? So this is one way, one of the application of the welfare criteria in public economics. Then you have public goods. अब public goods के केस में भी तो हो सकता है, this is the another case. जैसे कि अब कोई प्योर पब्लिक गुड है, जैसे डिफेंस है, हम सबके लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, हाँ? और हम सबको कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहिए गवर्नमेंट को कि वो डिफेंस को हमारे लिए अवेलेबल करवाए, क्योंकि डिफेंस पे अगर जब एक्सपेंडिचर होगा प्रॉपर हमारा लॉ एंड ऑर्डर मेंटेन रह सकता है। बट ऐसा भी तो है ना कि अगर किसी और ने डिफेंस के लिए पैसे दे दिए हैं तो उसकी सर्विस तो मुझे भी उतनी ही मिलेगी। वो ये थोड़ी देखेंगे नहीं आपने पैसा नहीं दिया है आपको नहीं मिलेगा, आपने पैसा नहीं दिया आपको नहीं मिलेगा, ऐसा नहीं होगा। तो ये प्योर पब्लिक गुड है, तो मेरे पास ये इंसेंटिव है कि मैं अपने जो प्रेफरेंसेस हैं उनको पूरी तरीके से रिवील ना करूं। दिस माइट हैपन, फॉर एग्जांपल इन केसेस ऑफ नेशनल डिफेंस दिस माइट हैपन। All of us should ideally pay for national defense, but sometimes it may happen that I may not reveal my preferences clearly. Even if I don't reveal my preferences, I may not pay for it and I may free ride on the others, right? So government again has to come in this kind of picture, because government has to devise a tax system. Right? Government has to devise a tax system which is going to reflect the true preferences of the consumers. Such tax system should be reflecting the true preferences of the consumers. That is one thing. Then another application could be, there could be an imperfect information. I've told you even there. There can also be imperfect information. There can be imperfect information. Now, when there is imperfect information, again government can come in. For example, when does the case of imperfect information it arises? When government, when the seller has more information than the buyer, it might happen. It can very well happen. Then government can actually come in the picture and can give the true information to everyone so that they can make the informed decisions. For example, in case of insurance regulatory bodies, government can create the regulatory bodies which are there to provide true information to everyone, and sellers, even though they have an incentive to not to reveal all information, but it is the idea of these regulatory bodies to provide all information and to force sellers to provide all information truthfully, so that the consumers, they can form the informed choices. Again, the government can come up. Government can put the regulatory bodies in place. Right? Government can form regulatory bodies in case. And also, they can also be the cases of externalities. Right? They can also be the cases of externalities. They can be positive or negative externality, both of them. So again, you can have, again, the government's role is there, and government can tax the individuals government can create such a kind of tax mechanism in which government can tax the individuals of the firms who are generating negative externalities on others, and can provide subsidies to the others who are generating positive externality on the others. So government can tax or subsidize, right? So that you move towards the socially efficient outcome. Again, we have a complete topic based on this, right? So this is the thing which we want to do in the introduction of this course. That is, you started by saying that there is a competitive economy. If all of those conditions are there, that is, there are large number of buyers and sellers, there is no asymmetric information, there is no barriers, no transaction costs, nothing, then everything will move smoothly. But if they are there, then what will happen, right? And we have to apply the welfare criteria in order to see how the optimum is achieved. And if that optimum is not achieved, then how to achieve that optimum with some exogenous force, for example, government, so that the social welfare could be increased. That is what we have learned in this chapter. I think in the next chapter, we're going to talk about externalities and maybe public goods, private goods and all. I mean, we're going to talk about that thing in the next chapter. Okay, thank you.